Rise and shine, it's Doka time. Welcome to the Traitors podcast. I'm Matthew, a writer working in unscripted TV development, and this podcast is mainly dedicated to English-speaking versions of the Traitors from around the world. However, sometimes we sidestep into other strategy reality shows like Netflix's Million Dollar Secret or ITV's Genius Game. Of course, this season of the podcast is dedicated to the brand new franchise in the Traitors world, the Traitors India, and today we'll be covering episodes 7 and 8. To help me recap and analyze the gameplay, or maybe even lack of gameplay, it's my Traitors International expert, and now really Traitors India expert as well, who's been looking at most of this season with me. It's MaJiKer! Welcome back, Matthew. How you doing?
I'm really well, Matthew. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing very well, apart from the heat. It's very hot.
Hmm.
The cloak may be being removed at some point soon. I'm just gonna say, even this little cloak is adding to the temperature.
Yeah, for viewers on YouTube, I have a nice little kind of scarfy shawl. I'm trying to honor my Indian heritage here. Um, but I'm already regretting it because it's as we end up saying in London, it's not the heat, it's like the humidity and the bricks absorb the heat and then
Yeah.
pump it back out at you. We are British and we are complaining about the weather. Deal
Wait,
with it.
what do you mean in London? You're clearly in India in the palace.
I am in. Took a quick trip to I want to say library, some
Yeah.
kind of room in the palace. Yeah, I'm moving my way each episode around that beautiful venue.
Yes. I hope no one interrupts our podcast by coming in that door behind you. So we'll see how
No,
it goes. Oh, it's not a door. It's not a door. Okay.
it's like a
Well,
shrine.
it's a shrine. Okay. It looks like you're secluded, so we're fine. Uh, like Matthew, we what a duo of episodes we have today. I think 7 and 8 were so much fun to watch.
Hmm.
You and at least one other person had sent me a message saying, "Tell me when you've watched episode 7." Like, so I knew that something fun might be about to happen. So before we go ahead though, and by the way, I haven't watched episode 9, and I don't think you have either. Is that right?
No, I haven't.
Okay, which is good. So we can give genuine predictions at the end of this about what may happen next. Before we get into 7 and 8, let's just sort of a couple of things to revisit about episodes 5 and 6. We've got a comment on YouTube and a comment from someone on Spotify. And while I mentioned YouTube, by the way, maybe I should mention that YouTube views and downloads are on the up for that particular podcast episode. Thanks everyone who's listening. And India is now the podcast's fifth biggest country for listenership this past month. So hello, India. Hello, everybody who's listening. And thank you. It's very exciting. This is a comment from Zach on YouTube. And Zach obviously listened to the last episode and is helping us out a little bit. He said, when Jasmine said about traitors voting for other traitors, because I had sort of made fun of Jasmine a little bit. Jasmine said, "Hey, we've seen a pattern. Traitors always vote for other traitors." And I was saying, what's she basing that on? They've only found one traitor. Zach says, when Jasmine said about traitors voting for other traitors, I think she was saying this because the only people who didn't vote Raj were Maheep and Lakshmi, who were both out as innocent. So I think Jasmine was deducing it's obvious that the traitors have turned on Raj, their fellow traitor. I think that was the deduction she was making.
Yeah.
Um, there would have had to be another traitor at the time, so they know the traitors voted Raj. As for Karhan's hint about the mission, his hint was something about their heart skipping a beat, and I was saying, "Oh, I don't really know how that connects to the mission." Zach says, "I think it's about the bars of gold being in the heart of the scarecrow. Maybe they had to sort of like find it in its torso somewhere,
I,
so maybe it was something to do with that."
I would have said more appendix level, but I'm very details focused.
Yeah. So who? Maybe that's part of it. Maybe it's still a mystery. We don't know.
What is the anatomy of a scarecrow?
Well, that's true. We don't know where the heart is.
We don't
So
know.
there you go. And lastly, this is just a fun comment on Spotify from Annie. Annie said, "I love the idea of two groups of traitors." Matthew, you mentioned this as a throwaway idea last time that there
Mm,
could be two traitors towers. Annie is into it. Maybe you're onto something. Maybe.
when I said it, I then thought, actually, that is genius. Like I say, please give us like 10 seasons of Amazing Traitors before you start to tinker with the format too much, because that is the way to kill a format.
Yeah.
However, yeah, I mean, and if they didn't, oh my goodness, if they didn't know, oh my goodness. So actually, there were like six select. Oh, I'm getting chills. There were six selected at the first ceremony,
Yeah.
but they don't know that actually, Claudia or whoever it is comes on and says what they don't know is that they're oh my goodness, and they could try and kill each other and go, oh, why have they come back? They must have had a shield. It's like, nope, they were a traitor. Like a
Mm.
murder spree
Yeah. Yeah.
every night in this, but they would need a second turret. I have a turret in my flat. If any, it's a bit of a drive from Scotland, but we can figure something out.
Yeah, they could like map it with AI and sort of
Yeah.
holographically recreate it or something like that.
Yes, exactly.
So there you go. Your little flippant idea has inspired a listener who wants to see it happen. And maybe people who make the show, or maybe Shuri or Lambert are listening, and someone's going to take the idea. Actually, we don't want that. We don't want them to steal your idea. So, anyway,
Honestly, I'd be up for that. And literally, if and when it happens in about hopefully about 10 years, I'll be like, listen back to a podcast I made 10 years ago. Because that's how I'll
yes.
speak in 10 years, obviously.
Of course, yeah. I'm almost speaking like that now. Uh, so I think we're ready for episodes 7 and 8 of Traitors India. Here we go. So we start with our recap, and also I have taken off the cloak because it's far too hot. So the recap of previous episodes, there were four players up for trial. That was Urfi, Harsh, Janvi, and Anshula. And in the mission, Urfi was saved from murder. Then a fiery circle of Shak, Raftar was eliminated, leaving Sufi speechless for once, followed by a bit of crying from Sufi because he didn't want to be the villain of the season. Maybe too late for that. At various points, it seemed like Elnaz and Purav may be planting seeds of doubt about one another amongst other players, and the traitors finished out episode 6 by choosing their next murder victim, of course, from the three available on trial. We start then properly at breakfast. Elnaz and Purav are the first to arrive. They get a little time to talk. Although Purav doesn't really want to do it. He's like fully in character. He's in
Mm.
method as an innocent. He's like, no, no, no. Elnaz, we are innocent now. We can't talk.
I
Um,
thought that was such an interesting moment. I don't think we've seen that before because sometimes they do that. In fact, most seasons they do this. They chuck in the traitors, they go, ha ha ha, ha ha ha, here we go.
yeah,
You guys are going to have your little sneaky chats and they're talking. I always think one little like detail, they always go to speak very quietly. In fact, whenever traitors do speak, they go quietly. That would give you away. You go, oh, God, what do you think? What do you think? It's like just speak normally. It's like, yeah, I
yeah,
really think, this is how it's going and that's how it's going. So if anyone walks in, you go, what are you guys talking about? Oh, we're
yeah,
just talking about how it's going.
yeah. That's very
Don't
true.
change your tone of voice and look around suspiciously. That's the worst
Yeah,
thing you could do. But it was so cute. Pranav was like, "We are innocent. We're." It's obviously like been practicing his like method acting
yeah, yeah.
less.
And it kind of made it clear to me that she's far more worried than him at this point. Like he's
Mm,
just like, come on, we're in the game, let's keep playing. And she's like, no, 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 we really need to talk. So
yeah.
she kind of knows that she's potentially in trouble.
Yep.
Of course, the people arriving now aren't, it's not really a surprise as everybody comes in because we know it's only going to be one of Janvi and Sheila or Harsh who's murdered. My prediction was Harsh last time, so I thought they were gonna something, big twist
Hmm.
was gonna happen, and
And my prediction was Anshula. So we're both really experts here.
yeah,
Although we'll get to it. This pick was really what a pick. What a
yeah, um, yeah, yeah. Well, we can. Well, so it's Janvi. The most of the players as well. I'm sort of surprised. Most of the players think Janvi's not coming back.
Hmm.
Um, and Urfi even says, "If Janvi comes in first, I'll break my bangles in her face." this woman loves a wild promise. This is her trait. What I'm surprised because I get maybe we talked about this last time because Janvi was like sort of number one suspect from the get-go. But then we also talked about maybe that's what happens. You're a high suspect, and then it flips, and everybody's like, "Nah, forget her. She's not a traitor." I still felt like some people suspected her though.
It,
Like,
but this it all went very weird with her. There is this kind of narrative with some players. They sometimes go the way all the way through, have suspicion, then feel a bit innocent, then people don't know, and then you're like, let's just get rid of you. I do think this pick was very much like it's time for Janvi to leave the game. I don't think it
yeah,
was anything else to do with like I don't think it was tactical actually. It didn't really make sense to me.
yeah. And I think maybe more sort of went on that they just can't really convey to us. Like,
Yeah.
I don't mean that in a sort of conspiracy theorist way, like there's something they're not telling us. I just mean maybe Janvi's relationship with the group was complicated and strange and not black and white, and it's just difficult to portray that on screen in a very edited version of a show. So we're kind of only getting a glimpse of how people felt about her, or
Or it might have been quite simply that there was more suspicion on Anshula,
yeah,
and
yeah,
Purav was never going to get rid of Harsh. Let's
yeah,
see what happens next. And so they were like, well, we got no choice,
yeah,
And
yeah.
actually, as it ended up playing out, maybe it was a good call because we all see what happens with
Hmm.
Anshula.
Yeah. So eventually Angela is the first to come back here. Meanwhile, Sufi's already um, really irritating Urfi, and she's whispering to others that he's definitely a traitor. And there's a great moment. Apurva is probably my favorite player of the season. I'm going to say it now. She is just so funny to me. There's a little clip of her saying, "If I was the traitor, genuinely, I would kill Urfi first." She just does not hide her disdain of Urfi, and she really makes me laugh. The door knocks. Who's it going to be? In comes Harsh. I realize my prediction was wrong. I'm sad about that, but also happy because,
Yeah.
my guy's still around.
I did let out a little whoop. It was quite a whoop. In fact, couldn't stop whooping. I was sure he was going to go.
Yeah,
And then I was
so
like, it's not just because he's handsome. It's also because like I felt like his story wasn't over. That would have been a really massive pivot in the game. I was like, oh, just get rid of Jambi. Honestly, I've
yeah,
had enough of her now. I can never get enough of Harsh.
I guess Janvi wasn't really a big player in the
No,
game and didn't have those connections, so it wasn't. It just didn't seem to really make a difference to anyone. It didn't upset the game in any particular way. So we flash back to the secret tower and we hear Parav. He says this comment I don't really understand. He says it's important to keep the male ratio. They know it can't just be the girls. So I think we'd heard Erna saying an episode or two before they're going to come for a woman next, and I think this is Parav saying, "Well, yeah, but doesn't just have to be." I can't quite figure it out. Like,
no, I didn't understand this either. But then I was just thinking, is he simply saying, which is not good strategy to win, but was he just saying, oh, we've got lots of women left? Was it
yeah,
like, but what was the, off the top of our heads, what was the ratio? I mean, who were the guys left? Harsh, Sudanshu, Purav,
Sufi,
Sufi. Is that it? And
yeah, yeah,
and then there were the kind of what, four young girls, the Behen Code
yeah,
ones.
yeah,
Angela, and so I think it might have just been like, oh, gender balance. Let's get rid of a woman.
yeah. Like, even if they still are gunning for a woman, it's fine. There are plenty of you.
Yeah, might have been
That
that.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
So Janvi receives the letter. She says it was well. She's like not was not surprised. She knew it was going to be her, but then she says, "Oh, it was. I know it was Purav." And she says she pulled some tarot cards and his were not innocent. Ooh, I'm
So we now have
I'm in.
proof,
We have proof.
categorically, categorical proof
Yeah,
that tarot
Is-
absolutely 100% works.
yeah. I'm convinced, and no one can tell me otherwise. So. Back at breakfast, yeah, no, just no one seems that bothered that poor Janvi's gone. They're like, oh, yeah, we thought it'd be her. Okay, what's for breakfast? So Karan, of course, rise and shine. It's Doka time arrives and he throws Janvi's picture behind him. I think he's really missed doing this. He's not had the chance for a couple of episodes, and he reads her to filth even in her death. It says, I really wish she had read her own tarot cards this time, and tells them this game is at a juncture where you have to take each step with a lot of caution. Ooh, bit of a clue about the mission. Off. And I didn't know what the mission was going to be. We'll get there. So we head off from the breakfast room. We're around the palace. We're seeing some discussions. Jasmine reflects on why she's still in the game, and she thinks it's because she said this before. She's like, "I'm dumb. I'm just dumb. The traitors are keeping me around." And at this point, I felt quite sorry for her, and I thought, "Oh, Jasmine, don't put yourself down like this." As these two episodes go on, I get increasingly frustrated with Jasmine. However, after saying that she thinks she's dumb, she and Jannat then theorize about how they think Elnaz is a traitor, so they're not that dumb.
Mm.
Um, but also they're saying they think their friend Urfi's a traitor, and maybe that's why she's kept around. But I don't know. I mean, we're at the point where everybody's probably saying everybody's name at some point, and we're just seeing a select compilation of those.
Yeah, and this whole narrative of, oh, why am I being kept around? It's like it's a really interesting way to play the game, and there is something in it for sure, because if you are around, there might be a reason for that. But also, someone's going to be kept around.
Yeah,
So it's a little bit like the world revolves around you. But why me? We've
yeah,
seen this in many other versions. Why me? It's like, well, if it wasn't you, it'd be someone else. It's
yeah,
just because it is you, you're the one who's asking it, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right. Not sometimes, yes, traitors deliberately keep people in. Sometimes there just are a certain amount of people left
Yeah.
because they haven't been murdered or eliminated. So sometimes you just happen to be there.
Yeah.
Harsh also comes over and talks to them about Elnas. Basically, they don't believe this, huh? Reaction every time someone tries to explain
Mm.
something. She goes, huh? What? So they're not buying it. Outside later, we then get Elnaz stirring the pot with Sudanshu. She's talking about Purav. He seems to be buying that. Already, I made a note here that I think we are in for some traitor on traitor action at the
Mm.
Circle of Shack tonight.
Oh.
I
Yeah.
think there have been too many little seeds dropped for the viewers. Apurva talks to Sudanshu about Elnaz too, and they've got completely different perspectives about her and her dumbness. Sudanshu's very defensive of Elnaz, which plays out into Circle of Shack. It's time for the mission. It is a giant chessboard. I immediately wondered if it was a similar task to one we've seen with a chessboard in US and UK. Actually, it isn't at all. The chessboard's actually nothing to do with
Mm.
it.
This does happen though. They get the visual element from one kind of mission internationally and do a kind of mashup with a totally different rules or different,
Mm,
it's kind
yeah,
of just I think at this point they've just got like visual ideas, game mechanics, and they put them all in the pot. So, oh, we could have a bit of that and bit of that.
yeah,
And chess is obviously great because it's kind of, good versus evil, white versus black, and all of this.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. There are 2.5 million rupees available in the mission today. They have to work in 5 pairs, which are assigned randomly, although it does mean that one player won't take part. So the pairs are Sufi and Jasmine. Jasmine tells us she hasn't trusted Sufi since day one. Then Apurva and Janat. I really wish it had been Apurva and Urfi just to see the, the tension play out. Sudanshu and Purav, Harshan and Shula, and then Urfi and Elnaz. And poor Nikita, she's out yet again, and Karan even makes a little joke about it.
Mm.
So, they have to walk up. This is the mission. Walk up a series of 7 steps from either side. It sort of looks like a winner's podium to me. That's my best way of describing it. Each step is labeled like 2 lakh rupees for the team, shield, 10 lakh rupees for yourself, and so on. The pairs have to walk up in sync from either side until they meet in the middle, possibly. Each person individually chooses when they want to drop their money bag. once one player drops it, the game's over, and whoever dropped it first earns whatever the label is on the step. It's basically a game of sort of judging what you think your partner might do and either trusting them and sticking with it or being sneaky and doing your own thing and playing the game more selfishly. First up is Sufi and Jasmine. He tells her straight up he's going for the 10 lakhs for himself because he thinks he's never going to win the game now. He may as well leave with something, which I kind of think is fair enough. I mean, maybe it's not a good strategy to tell the person you're doing that, but
Mm.
I'm not. Maybe we'll talk about it once we get through all the pair. I'm not mad at someone just playing for themselves at this point. Jasmine says that she's the opposite. You know, she wants to work for the team. That's the good thing to do. And but then she says this funny thing that I think is a contradiction. She says the innocents probably aren't going to win. And I think, well, so you want to add money to the pot for the traitors then? um, I sort of thought, do you get how the show works? Like I wasn't sure. And Sufi, well, he says, fine, fine, we'll do, go along with the team. And I immediately just didn't believe him. I thought, no way is he being convinced by Jasmine. So they begin on each step. Karan starts. Well, they get a minute, of course, to have a little discussion at the start, which is what they were doing. Every time they step onto one of the stairs, Karan gives them a 10-second countdown to make up their mind. They reach the 10 lakh step for yourself, and of course, Sufi drops the bag. And he's telling us in his interview, I'm a winner, darling. Um, Jasmine is livid, and she's now convinced he's a traitor. Although, and I'll probably say this several times now, to me, this doesn't seem like a traitor move. Like, I think it seems like the move of an innocent. I don't know if, will you, like, I think a traitor like Purav does would just pretend to be playing for the team. Like, I don't think a traitor would so obviously just grab the money for themselves. I don't
Mm.
know. I thought it would make me think, oh, he probably is an innocent if he's really worried that he's not going to last, so he's going to take this money.
Yeah, I didn't think much of this mission, but actually now you say it and now we're breaking it down, it probably was quite interesting because of that reason. The Again, I've said this before, but the problem with the missions is that sometimes it just doesn't inform the game, and you can see in this season they've really tried to have it inform the game.
Yeah,
Um, and so, yeah, what would a traitor do in
yeah,
any setting is really that's what so they're just putting them under the microscope. What would, yeah, what would an innocent do? What would a traitor do? And so they're trying to just give them all these options. Is it money for you? Is it money for the team? Is it a shield? Like all of this stuff.
yeah,
But you're right. But then is it like, doth he protest too much? And then it's like,
yeah,
oh yeah, no, or and yeah, depends what level you're playing the game at. Is it he's a bit dodgy, he can't be trusted, must be a traitor. That's not great play. Or he's doing this, oh, he's just blending in. There are these layers. And so what they're trying to do, I think, is shake out some of those layers.
yeah. I actually quite like the mission, even though it's not a big spectacle.
Mm,
I sort of did like guessing what they might do and seeing the little deceptions. So I
yeah.
sort of was okay with this one.
Mm. The
Uh,
pairing up was good, and the fact that it was random, I
yeah,
appreciated that.
yeah. Although it is a poor Nikita. Like I thought maybe they were going to get her to do some other role in the game,
Yeah.
but yeah, I guess
I
just
mean,
doesn't work out.
I think that happened, wasn't it? Because they ended up, if there hadn't have been one of the refusal,
Yeah,
I've lost track of it now, but I think they probably didn't plan to have an odd number of players.
yeah,
They should have just invented an extra little thing and said at any Nikita watches the whole thing,
yeah,
and at some point, at any point, she can just intercept and say, "Oh no, you go back down a step and it's you've gone too far." There could have been just an extra little mechanic.
yeah.
Maybe I've gone a little bit genius game here, where I'm trying to overcomplicate the rules.
Or I just wonder if it can't be that complicated to just do this mission the day after and swap them, or do one the day before, like just use it at a time when there are only an even. Maybe it's I'm simplifying TV production and everything is like on a schedule and it's just too
Hmm.
complicated to do it.
Well, they had hired a whole lot of extras, which we're going to find out in the
Well,
next episode.
of course, that's true. Maybe it's too difficult at the last minute to change a
Mhm.
day that like 20 people are going to come and be on set.
Yeah.
So Sudanshu and Purav are next, and pretty simply, they agree to play for the team, and Purav tells us that he thinks this is a good way to earn Sudanshu's trust. And they both stick to their word. They make it all the way to the end. They win 5 lakh rupees for the team. Jinnah and Apurva are next. Jinnah immediately asks if she can have the shield and justifies it by saying, "Hey, I helped you back in this sort of spotlight mission at night. She said, I helped you with your fake, plan to pretend you had the shield. So this time, can I get it?" And Apurva agrees, which I think is, and I think she smartly comes up with this plan. She says, "Right, well, that's fine. You have it, but let's also pretend that it was me who won it." I, I, I just think Apurva's clever. I think that's a smart way of doing it. I sort of wonder why other pairs didn't think to do something like this. The only reason it might be bad is if I mean this is a bit of foreshadowing, is if other players find out and then they think, "Oh, that was really sneaky and devious of you. Are you actually quite a selfish person and now I don't trust you?" Maybe long term it comes back to bite you. Uh, Also, I'm going to throw it in here. I thought it at several points up until now, and maybe you will have no memory, so this will mean nothing to you. I really loved Apurva's outfit. It was so reminiscent to me of Remember Monday at Eurovision, their stage outfit. She had these sort of little tassels on her shoulder. She had these like boots or something like covered coming up to her knees. It's so anyone who has no idea what I'm talking about, Google Remember Monday Eurovision 2025. Look at their outfits on stage. It is almost exactly what Apurva is wearing here.
Look, you've mentioned the E word. This is dangerous because the only thing that I'm more knowledgeable about than various random international versions of the Traitors is the Eurovision Song Contest. So I'm going to just literally censor myself from saying anything other than if you remember Monday, then you're doing better than a lot of people because bless them, very good singers. The song, however, no, shut up, Matthew. Don't review the UK's entry in Eurovision this year. We're on the Traitors. We're on the Traitors. Back to the Traitors. Focus. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to mute myself.
We'll do a bonus. We'll start a Patreon and we'll do a Eurovision extra episode.
No, we won't, Matthew. This is not gonna. It will be a 5 hour long podcast. You
Okay,
can't shut
okay,
me up.
okay. We won't. Um, they go through with their plan. Jeanette gets the shield. Apurva's going to pretend. So, and Sheila and Harsh are next. Interestingly, both of them just admit they want either the money for themselves or a shield. They're both just like, I want help here. And they both also think they're not going to survive until the finale. They both reach the 10 lakh for yourself step and try to drop their bag straight away. Bless Harsh. I think he slightly misunderstood what he had to do because he sort of throws his bag to the side so that it hits the ground. I think he didn't realize you literally just drop it to your feet. So because of his physical action, it does take a split second longer. So and Sheila just drops it and hers hits the floor right at her feet. Like that's I don't know. Was he being nice and letting her win? I'm not
Again,
sure.
that was not clear. That was not clear whether he was being a gallant and throwing it away. But then why would you throw it? You just hold it. It doesn't.
Yeah.
That was the only thing I didn't get. And I also like the whole, you've got 10 seconds. It's like, well, if you've made your decision you're going to do it, you step and throw, or you just literally throw it as you step, you know?
Well, I did think that, although then I realized they have to step first and wait for Karan's countdown.
Okay.
But still, if you've made up your mind, as soon as he says 10,
Yeah.
just drop it right there and then. And
Mm,
maybe if both of them do that, it's like horse racing. They'll slow-mo it and they'll see who's touched,
yeah.
that sort of thing.
I was thinking of a shootout in the Wild West. I
Yeah,
think that's
yeah,
what they were going for. Like you blink and I blink and
yeah.
there we go.
Maybe they could reinterpret this mission with like paintball guns. You have to like shoot a paint pellet at your opponent.
Yeah, so long
Uh,
as they're wearing eye goggles, because anyone who grew up when I grew up is traumatized by Ant and Dec.
Biker Grove.
Can I see? I cannot see. That is a deep cut. I apologize for anyone who didn't grow
No,
up
no,
watching
no.
Like a Grove.
We cannot be the only ones. Any time I ever see paintball on TV, Biker Grove, the eyes, the not the goggles, it's emblazoned in my mind. Um, so Urfi and Elnaz are next. Elnaz says she wants the shield, and I think maybe I'm wrong. I think she was pretending to not understand again that it doesn't save you from the circle of Shaq, and Urfi's like, no, like no, you could still get. eliminated tonight, and people are talking about you anyway. And then Elnaz, again, I think, pretends to be worried about murder as well. And Urfi's like, you are never getting murdered. Basically, like, you will be eliminated at some point. Or if not, the traitors will keep you around because you're a prime suspect. Or you are a traitor, and so you're not going to get murdered. They both agree to just battle it out for the shield. So yeah, this is where you're kind of just relying on like just having quicker reflexes and just dropping it faster than the other person. However, when they get to the 10 lakh for yourself step, Elnaz suddenly drops her bag. Matthew, what the hell just happened? Little throwback. So,
We are
um,
not going to start dropping in Eurovision songs, Matthew. You don't know the can of worms you've opened. Okay, well, let's just play this game, but not too much, just ooh ah a little bit. Anyway, no.
um, so right before Elnaz drops the bag, I sort of thought she was going to do this. I had a moment where I thought she's not waiting for that shield. Um, And I again, maybe I've misread this. I thought this would make her look like an innocent who's genuinely worried that she's going to be wrongly eliminated. Or maybe it's like sort of like a traitor who also thinks they're going to get eliminated, so they might as well just take some money now. I don't know. But Urfi is shook to the core. And she says the funniest thing in her I think it's in her confessional. She says, I never thought someone would betray me to my face. I thought, does does she think this is like India's Got Talent or like Big Boss? Like, does she know that this is a show called The Traitors? It's so funny that she's like, someone betrayed me. She just can't believe it. Thought, come on, Urfi, what show are you on? Um, so they all reassemble at the end. Karan reveals that they've only added, I say only, 500,000 rupees to the prize pot. And I wondered here, have they had the chance to tell each other what they've done yet? Actually, I don't think so. And Sudanshu and Purav were the ones to add the money to the team pot. We immediately are back off to the palace, and Apurva and Jana fake a fight about the shield to create the illusion that Apurva has it and that they're annoyed with one another. Because, yeah, Karan didn't reveal who had won a shield. It was up to the players
Mm,
to do that. So I really loved it. I think this is just so funny. Like the whole gameplay of
yeah.
Apurva's sneaky plan and let's pretend that we've got it. Because it proves something that one of the players talks about later that even as an innocent, I was going to say a faithful, even as a faithful or an innocent, I think you have to do a bit of gameplay and
Mm,
sneakiness and not always tell the truth about things. It's not just the traitors who have to lie in this game, I reckon.
yeah. That
Unless you're
I
really
think
lucky.
I think I've never seen that before. I've never seen two players agreeing to fake an argument about a shield so that they can both be protected.
Yeah,
Genius.
I like it.
Again, this is not the first season of a show.
Yeah,
This is a season where they're like, "Oh, and this is going to come out late in the next episode.
yeah,
People being like, this happened, so that happened. So I think this, and I'm loving it. It's like
yeah,
they've learned from all the international versions and they're doing something incredibly smart on their first season.
yeah. It just makes me think, God, and it's funny because there's like celebrities. This is I mean, this sounds like I'm making a sweeping statement, but you kind of wouldn't expect I wouldn't expect it on like a celebrity season that these the players have studied this game, like really want to play it properly. You would maybe expect a celebrity cast to like the US one just show up and be dramatic and wear fabulous outfits, and they kind of don't really need to know what the game's all about. They just want their appearance fee and their screen time, and off they go.
Mm.
I love that they're really taking the game seriously. Um, and yeah, if I just made a note to myself here, like if I was a prospective contestant, um, if I was going to be on one of these shows, I would take any opportunity post mission to do what Apurva's doing. If you have the chance, pretend you've got a shield and fool other people into thinking so. I think Apurva's got the right idea. And speaking of prospective contestants, UK season four, not the celebrity one, will be deep in pre-production right now. I think they usually film August, September, so I'm sure preparations are ramping up as we speak. So Elnaz and Urfi they argue about what happened between them and about Elnaz taking the money for himself. I looked it up again. 10 lakh rupees is about £8,500 or $12,000. Um, so I'd mentioned this a little bit before. Matthew, would this be enough at this stage of the competition? £8,500, would that be enough to make you just take it? Like, is it worth risking the anger of your other players, or should you keep going and try and win the whole thing? Would you just be like, you know what, I'm going to take some money now?
Yeah, it really depends where you are in the game. If you feel that there's more than a 50% chance that you're going to get, chucked out either at the Circle of Shack or murdered, take the money. So
Yeah,
I think it really also depends, like financially, on what difference that would make to your life, because there are, some people that would absolutely change the course of the next few years of their life. I know these are celebrities, but even still, sometimes, social media creators. That kind of money can, I think one of them even says, doesn't it? Like, is it Sufi or someone says, oh, that money would mean a lot to me. I'm not sure how true that is, depending how expensive his bags are.
yeah,
Sell a bag, Sufi, sell a bag.
yeah,
Um, I mean, there are three things here. There's the money, there's the gameplay, and then it's how it comes across on TV.
yeah,
And it depends what you want to do next. If you have a reputation that, that you're not a greedy person, or I don't know what, you might just think, would I take 8 grand? And then everyone just thinks I'm greedy and hates me, and I get loads of hate on social media. There's a lot of factors at play here. What about
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess I was asking you a question with no real answer, and I agree with what you said. It feels like it's not an answer, but it just so would depend on how confident you felt about your chances going forward. I think though, if I was an innocent, I would just take it. You could just so easily be murdered, and
Yep.
it's nothing to do with how you played the game.
Yep.
Um, I think I would probably take it unless I think like Purav, I was a traitor and I was pretty confident I had a good chance. It's episode 7. I'm not had any votes yet. Maybe I've had one or two actually, sorry. And yeah, maybe if you felt like I'm got a pretty good chance, and actually it's worth the risk of looking good in front of everybody and earning their trust,
Yep.
that I'm just going to say no. And I'm just going to try, but I'm not mad at Elnaz.
Yeah, well, I mean, the decision can go two ways, can't it? Because it can either be, therefore, you are definitely a traitor, or therefore you're not. So it's like, well, it depends how you play it and how it's interpreted. What
Yeah,
is for sure is that if you say yes, you are guaranteed to go away. It's like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? You've got the safety net, and you come back down, whatever happens, I'm coming away with wherever I set my safety net.
yeah,
Because in the latest version of the UK one, you can choose where to put it. And some people wait and wait and wait. And they're like, 64,000, 125,000. And I'm screaming, if you get this wrong, you're going away with £1,000. Like, this is so risky. But hey, there are some risk takers. But I would love to go into the fire of truth knowing, well, I'd like to win the show. And I think there are no traitors left. But if I'm wrong, I'm still getting 8 grand,
yeah,
That's
yeah,
not a bad few days' work.
absolutely. When you just said in the recent UK one, you choose when you set your like sort of bank. I thought you meant the traitors, and I was like, I don't remember this from the last season. What? And then I realized you're
Have
talking about Millionaire.
Have I accidentally come up with another format point for series 27 of the
Uh,
UK Traitors?
well, I think so. Uh, we see a little bit of Purav talking to the viewer, and he thinks Elnaz did a really stupid thing in the mission. Again, maybe I've got it wrong. I thought it was okay. I thought it might make her look like an innocent. Um, Purav and Elnaz have a moment to talk alone, and she tells him she knows Urfi is trying to gather votes against her tonight, and she's trying to get a bit of backup from Purav, although I'm not sure it's going to happen. Urfi and Sufi have this strange conversation inside because they've really been enemies for a while now. They're talking about Elnaz, and Sufi suddenly promises he'll vote for Elnaz tonight, right after saying he doesn't think she's a traitor. So I thought he's either lying, which he kind of is, or he's like desperately like, look, maybe my only way to stay in this game is to just become fake friends with Urfi and have a little bit of an alliance. So maybe Yeah, I think he's so worried he's going out soon that he's like, maybe I just like try and be nice to Urfi and see if that gets me any further. I mean, it ends up not really mattering because he changes his mind within minutes, I'm sure. Sufi and Elnaz continue to debate things outside. They're blaming one another for starting rumors about their potential elimination tonight, their identity as a traitor. Meanwhile, I think is it Sufi and Elnaz? Have I written the wrong name? I think it is. Um, it wasn't, yeah. Meanwhile, maybe I meant Urfi. I don't know. Every now and then I write the wrong person, but someone please correct me in the comments. Meanwhile, Sufi and Anshula talk about Urfi. They basically think she's a sort of ringleader and she's commanding the votes, which tonight will be against Elnaz. So Anshula suggests this counter plan that they actually garner votes against Urfi and get her out. So they're counting votes, they're sort of comparing who's in what group. I I actually thought at this point I had this weird feeling Purav's vote could be incredibly powerful tonight. And spoiler, it kind of isn't really actually, but I don't know. I had this thought here that, oh, he's going to be the deciding vote. It's all going to come down to him. Cut to Urfi gathering her friends to vote alongside her. She's doing exactly what other people think she's doing. And she's counting votes. She's in her confessional, counting who's going to vote for Elnaz, who's going to vote with her. And she also points out to the others that Elnaz mysteriously understood today's mission instantly, and that doesn't really align with the dumb character she's created for herself. And soon after, Urfi and Janat try to convince Purav he has to vote for Elnaz. He seems quite resistant, but we immediately cut to Apurva telling Elnaz, "Oh, Purav's voting for you tonight." And Elnaz is like, "What? Did he say that?" And Apurva's going, "Yeah, he said that." I don't know if that's true or not, but um, Elnaz leaves in shock, and we've got Sufi telling Apurva he's writing Purav's name tonight. And I thought, "Oh, there goes your promise to Urfi." Okay, and it's really time for the Circle of Shak now. I have to be really careful not to call it the Circle of Shame after I made that mistake last time and you corrected it. Circle of
Just,
Shak.
I don't know if you noticed, but one of them said COS. Did you get that? It,
No, I mean that's how I write it in my notes,
yeah,
COS, but
it
okay.
was, I think it was either Janat or Jasmine. I think it was Jasmine
Okay.
or Janat, I can't remember. And they were said, yeah, 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 it was all in Hindi, COS. And the subtitle said COS. Was like, I love
Oh, great.
COS.
Yeah, great. They've even got their own little abbreviations. Yeah, that's fun. I hadn't noticed that. So COS is here. Maybe I should just call it that. COS. Urfi comes in. She knows that she's going to have to face a fight tonight. And Purav is telling us Elnaz could be going tonight. But he's he's he says it quite quickly and he doesn't say it. I think what he implies is he's worried that if she gets eliminated, maybe she'll land him in it. Like she'll do something last minute, like I don't know, throw out a vote for him or say something ambiguous in her goodbye speech. Which is yet another thing that makes me think he's watched other seasons. He's seen traitors do this before. He knows what to be worried about. So
Yeah.
I can't remember what I think I took a phone call last night. I was watching the episode because I sent you a very late message today, and I've just finished episode 7, and it was like 11 p.m. or something. I watched up to this bit, and I had to pause to go on the phone with someone. But I knew this was going to be a really tense COS. So, discussion begins after Karan does as usual. Harsh begins discussions. I'm like, this what? Sufi? What why are you sitting back? So Harsh says he said he sort of on the defense quite quickly. He's like, by the way, everybody, I would just like you to know that I put Elnaz's name out there on my own. I wasn't influenced by anyone. Urfi didn't make me say that. She could never influence me in that way. And this comment may come back to bite him. And what's so funny about this moment is that he's so busy being like, Urfi doesn't influence me, and like I'm gonna stand up and speak for myself, and she can't stop herself from like desperately trying to interrupt and put her hand up, like he's not even finished, and she wants to jump in,
Yeah.
and it's so ironic because what she wants to say is that she's not that influential. So
Mm.
she's like,
Yeah.
but I don't speak all the time and influence people. I'm like, Urfi. maybe you could stop talking right now.
Yeah.
Um,
I think what that was is I suspect for TV, you work in TV, the worst thing is to have people speaking over each other. Like it's almost unbearable
yeah,
because you just can't follow it. If there's literally more than one person speaking, it's very, very difficult to follow both, certainly for the poor subtitlers. And so I think what they've established at round tables is I think the producers have said, look, do what you want, chip in, go at it, but please don't have long periods where you're just talking at the same time.
yeah,
And so I think Jen, that's why she was trying to put her hand up a little bit. She was like, kind of, I want to cup it in here.
yeah.
Um, which, yeah, is so much better when they are speaking over each other. It does. You can have moments like that, but it's exhausting, and you can't follow. You can't follow anything as a viewer. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And it's so difficult in terms of audio and vision to have to cut between different conversations, cut out the sound of it, focus it. Sometimes we see it at banishments where a pair will really quietly whisper like, "Who you going to vote for?" But it's
mm,
so quick. But yeah, I think you're right that they're probably encouraged. Please speak one at a time when you can. Like this will take as long as it needs to. Do not worry about running out of time. You
yeah.
will all get to say what you want to say.
Yes,
Which,
which is why we've often heard in this version and several other versions. I haven't finished doing a Kamala Harris. I'm speaking. I'm speaking. I'm still speaking. I haven't finished,
yeah, and why we hear ex-contestants in interviews say these go on for hours,
Yeah,
because everybody needs the chance to speak one at a time.
yeah.
They probably don't want cross conversations. So Urfi's too busy saying, "I'm not influential at all," and Elnaz is like, "Well, you are. I think you are." And she says, "You form groups. Actually, people are afraid of you." And Urfi has the worst comeback. She goes, "You and Sudanshu are a group of two." And she's like, "I mean, maybe there's only two of you, but you're still a group." And Elna's sort of she's in fighting mode and she brings the attack. She explains, "Well, everyone felt compelled to save you, Urfi, in that mission yesterday because you're so dominant and people are kind of a bit afraid of you. And you then spent the rest of the day praying Harsh wouldn't be murdered." Um, and she's saying this was all because actually maybe you're a traitor and you put yourself in that position on trial and you knew that you'd be able to save Harsh from murder and that's why he's still here. Uh, so I kind of thought Elnaz was doing a pretty good job actually. Uh, then Jasmine comes at Elnaz and her tactic of playing dumb, and there's this really interesting moment. And actually, a listener sent me a question about this. Um, that Jasmine talks about Elnaz's language, and she says, "Suddenly you're speaking Hindi so eloquently."
Mm.
And I thought, oh, I hadn't realized before now that this was a factor, and
Yeah.
that maybe she speaks English more often. And actually, it turns out Elnaz speaks like five different languages.
Mm.
She speaks like German and English and something else. And
Must be Farsi, I think, because I think she's Iranian.
uh,
I don't know how Iranian she is. I don't know if she's speaks Farsi fluently, but that was what I understood just from her biog. If you remember in the first episode that
yeah.
she is, yeah, Iranian, German, and so I think the whole idea was that she was coming into this, and I was amazed at the Hindi that she speaks. And
Hmm.
interestingly, a bit of a sidebar, I know that in Bollywood they do welcome people from international, other countries who speak other languages, but you really, really have to speak good Hindi.
Hmm.
I think it was a British person who went over there and taught themselves Hindi and they said it took like 7 years to get it absolutely right, because at that point, at least, maybe things have changed a bit in the past few years, but it's like you don't go into Bollywood film unless your Hindi is really, really perfect. It's not
Hmm.
an Arnold Schwarzenegger, coming in
Yeah.
and saying, "I will butcher your language," that doesn't fly.
Yeah. Give me all your clothes. That's my weird favorite Terminator quote. That sounds quite creepy. While I'm sort of remember it, I'll read out this is a message from Alex. Alex is listening from Colombia. Um, Alex sent me a message on Instagram saying, "Episode 7 was so exciting. I liked the mission and the jumping ahead, the murder in plain sight. And he says, I was also surprised to learn about Elnaz's alleged language barrier. According to Wikipedia, she speaks English, German, French, Persian, Hindi, Punjabi, and Urdu. Um, and Alex asked if he's back. I would appreciate if you asked Sanjay on his perspective as a native speaker and how he convincingly, on how convincingly she played the language barrier to her advantage. Sanjay is super busy in rehearsals right now. So he's not going to be back on the podcast for this season. He'll be back in future, probably on UK celebrities. But you know, Sanjay loves to talk to people. Anyway, follow Sanjay Lago on Instagram. I promise, if you send Sanjay a message about Traitors India, he will happily talk to you. He loves the show. So uh, yeah, Sanjay probably does have a really interesting perspective on this. But yeah, at this moment, I just thought I hadn't heard anyone talk about this before, and I thought it was really interesting. And Elnaz defends herself, saying, "Yeah, I can speak Hindi. I can't speak the entire dictionary, but I'm basically fluent." And Janat's like, "You're speaking Hindi so well right now. I've never heard you talk like this." And I guess back to what we were saying a few minutes ago, she's like, "Well, it's easier right now because we're at Circle of Shack. We speak one at a time. I can follow everyone. It's not different conversations all happening at the same time."
Yeah.
So I sort of suddenly thought, oh, is this, I hadn't realized, is this part of the reason, pretend or not, that sometimes she does the like, huh? Like, and she pretends maybe she actually doesn't understand people, or she's using it to her advantage, and that's why it might be quite believable that she doesn't follow things. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, as someone who's really interested in languages, and I speak kind of a few, only a second one fluently, which is French. There is something around like your level of proficiency in a language really changing depending on the context.
yeah.
Because I find that even with French that I do speak fluently, if I'm opposite someone who's just not very pleasant or a bit pushy, I just start like stammering. There you go, stammering, demonstrating it, and not. Yeah, and I just trip over my words, and suddenly I'm like, oh my God, can I not speak this language? And all it takes is someone to be friendly, and I like it's so weird. You find words that you didn't know you knew. You find
Mm,
phrases and expressions, and you're quick-witted and all of that. And that's what I felt was happened here. I know it wasn't a comfortable situation, but she knew she had to focus. She knew she had to be there. So they go, oh, suddenly your Hindi's so good. It's like, yeah, your proficiency in a language goes up as well as down. Like this is
mhm.
that's we're human. It's complicated.
Yeah. And she actually does start to cry a lot, and I don't think it's completely acting. I think maybe she's just tapping into actually feeling a bit vulnerable for a
Mm,
moment, and that people are attacking the way she speaks. So I don't think she's completely pretending to cry because she's a traitor. I think she probably was a little bit like, "Oh, you're kind of digging at something real here."
I thought she was acting, but in the sense of, like the actor's studio, the method acting where you use something, you say,
Yeah.
"Oh, it's so hurtful." I'm sure, like she's a tough cookie. I'm sure she could have just gone, whatever, just picking on
Yeah.
my Hindi. I
Yeah.
speak six languages. It's fine. But actually, she was like, "No,
Yeah.
oh, remember when my teddy bear fell out of my bed? Let's remember that." And I'll just milk a few tears out.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, Sudanshu comes to her defense here, as he does a lot. Now Jasmine turns to Urfi and she says, "Hey, by the way, I'm also suspicious of you." And her key reason is something that she said before. She's like, Everyone has lost friends through murder or at Circle of Shack, except you. How come you've still got your pals around you?" And she thinks that Urfi's keeping her and Janat around. This argument intensifies with Urfi really furious that Jasmine didn't discuss this with her beforehand, but Jasmine's like, I did tell you this. Who knows where the truth lies? And Shula steps in to make the point that she feels traitors are more likely to have put money into the pot in the mission, which is kind of what I thought, because they're more confident that they'll reach the end. She's kind of shining the spotlight on Sudanshu and Purav, I think, by saying, actually, what you did doesn't make me think you're innocent. It makes me think the opposite. And Sudanshu and Purav, defend their thought process. No, no, we're playing as a team. Before Apurva jumps in and comes for Purav for the same thing that they are always annoyed at him for, that he never takes a name, and others jump in agreeing the same. Eventually, Purav names Elnaz and Sudanshu, which is funny because that was his partner in the game, and he's wondering why he's using the fact that Sudanshu's quite protective of Elnaz and pretending that makes him think they're traitors. Suddenly, Harsh comes in and sort of gives this big speech about how everyone thinks Purav is great in the missions, but actually he doesn't contribute anything else in the game. That's harsh, and maybe he's been the traitor under their noses this whole time. And for a minute here, this was just so sudden from Harsh.
Mm,
I thought this was going to take a massive turn on Purav. Like I really had this moment that, oh,
mm.
this is going to unfold in a way we didn't anticipate.
And
Uh,
is that the reason why you no longer think he's handsome?
no, it's just I'm saving split seconds of time by not prefacing his name with handsome. But no,
Okay.
I absolutely do think that.
Would it help if I add like sign language on the YouTube subtitles every time you say harsh? I do the sign for handsome, which is just like me gasping with my hands. Like, would that
Yes,
help?
you can continue to do that.
It's. I also think we should probably stop objectifying him now. He's become a real player. He's actually speaking up for the first. Like, he's
Yes,
been pretty quiet, brooding, you know. And now
yeah,
Hart is actually coming. I support your decision to
okay,
acknowledge his handsomeness and not have to mention it every time.
yes, thank you.
Can we call him Harsh Harsh now, please?
Yes, he's harsh. We were changing the HH. Um, yes, there we go. I sort of don't think in this moment Purav's doing himself massive favors because he just keeps laughing it off. Like he's just
Mm,
sort of like smiley, smiley, ha ha ha, you're all accusing me. I thought he needs to look a bit more offended and upset.
yeah.
So I thought that was my impression. He was too chill about what everyone was saying.
Mm.
Then there's this breakout argument across the table between Elnaz and Purav. It's what I predicted, traitor on traitor. She's asking him, "Why do you suspect me?" He's just keeps being so vague. He just says things like, "It's just observations." Although I have to say, he's not the only one that does that. I think Jasmine sometimes goes, "It's just observations." And after being pressed, he says, "Well, it's because you've only ever named Urfi as your suspect, and you only ever go after her." And she criticizes him for, and she's like, "Well, you never talked to me. How could you have any observations of me? We don't spend any time alone." So it is time for the votes. Here we go. We start off with Sufi, and he votes for Purav, uh, which immediately I notice is interesting because he's sitting beside Purav on his right, which means Purav's going to end up being the final vote. And I thought, oh, I was right. Purav's going to be the deciding vote, and he isn't again. But I was excited for a moment. Then it's Anshula who votes for Purav as well, although she writes Purab. I noticed on her slate. Is that what is
Well,
going on there?
um, I don't know, but I do know in some languages V and B is very similar. So, for example, in Spanish, I think they kind of pronounce it as the same. Like, so they would say like, oh, very difficult. They would say, oh, very difficult, very difficult. Like
Mm,
b,
yeah,
very
yeah,
similar. So I think purav, purab. You could see it's similar placement in the mouth.
yeah. Sort of like plosive sounds, I
Purab,
guess.
purab. And I suppose it's, I think the way they say it's purav. So it's like purab,
Yeah,
purab, purav.
yeah.
Yeah.
I also think someone's done that before, if I'm not wrong. So there's something in it. Anyway, Jasmine is next and votes for Elnaz, and so does Urfi, and so does Jannat, which is not really a surprise. Elnaz then votes for Urfi, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. She hasn't turned on Purav. And not that it would have made a difference. Harsh goes for Elnaz as well, so that's not a surprise. And Nikita votes for Anshula, and I'm surprised and I'm not surprised. I thought, huh? Like, I know you think she's the traitor, but isn't this kind of just a throwaway vote? Like, no one else was gonna vote for her. Um, yet, spoiler. And at this point, like Apurva and Sudanshu would now both need to vote for Purav to at least make it a tie. Purav's not going to vote for himself, so it was kind of at this point like Elnaz is pretty much gone, I think. Apurva is next. and votes for Sufi, and he's just like, huh? Um, it's another strange one. Sudanshu votes for Purav, so yes, mission partners turning on one another, and a little bit, and Purav then votes for Elnaz. Ooh, he did turn on her. So finally, another traitor is out. They got one in episode one. It's taken until episode seven to find the next. So Elna stands for her speech and says, "It was a pleasure to play with you all. I said from day one to take nothing personally. I want to talk to you after. I don't know if you want to talk to me." And she says this funny thing. She says, "I'm doing whatever I'm being told." I don't know if she was hinting, like, look, I was just given a role and I'm
Mm.
sticking to it. Um, she says, "I give my best. I try my best as much as I possibly could." Karan, "Are you a traitor or an innocent?" And Elnaz reveals, "I am a traitor." And this is the first time I noticed there's a light above them here and it shines green.
Yeah.
I didn't. I've never noticed that it shone red on the Innocents or that Raj got a green light. So I suddenly was
Mhm.
like, oh, there's just a little element in production I hadn't spotted.
Yeah, I did notice the red one, but I didn't know what the red one meant. I thought it meant you have got it wrong. It was a innocent. It's a I don't know. It's like in the final fire as well, the debate over what red should mean and what green should mean. Because I do get it. It's like red, you got it wrong. It's an innocent.
Yeah.
Green, you got it right. But then green is also like go, like yeah, good for you. Like I don't know. It's weird. Like you did well. Who did well? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The traitor did well. Yeah. Anyway, I think it's a little unnecessary. There have been a little bit of inside info. There have been lighting changes in other versions.
Mm.
In several other versions, the lights dim, so all the players are in this kind of weird glow, this kind of
Mm.
bluey glow while they reveal, and then the lights kind of come up when it's revealed.
Okay. Okay. I think that sounds like it might be a little bit more dramatic than a sort of faint green light above that we didn't even notice.
I thought it was a bit like an exit sign or something. Someone had turned on like an emergency signal. Like,
Yeah. Or like they're about to be beamed up somewhere.
okay, well that's for Traitors season 397.
Yeah,
They get
the Traitors
tractor beam.
Star Trek crossover. Uh, there are so she reveals that she's a traitor. There's shots of Anshula and Nikita completely shocked, and Jasmine and Urfi are going wild. I wondered here if Sudanshu might now be in trouble for defending her so much. There's various clips of players saying they're totally shocked at Elnaz's performance. They can't believe it. And it so here's where my brain went wild for the rest of the episode, trying to figure out what was going on. It struck me now. I thought, oh, Purav's gonna have to blackmail tonight, or so I thought. And the players are all. It's quite a nice moment because actually they all give her a round of applause. Like she's
Mhm.
gone, but at least they're like, "Hey, she was amazing." Like so, I quite like they're not taking it really personally. That's what I want to see. I want to see everyone just be like, "Oh my God, we were so caught up, but it was fun and it was a game."
Yeah.
Um, and Urfi's going, "She even cried," which is great. Karan then reappears and tells them there will be a murder tonight. And I thought, oh, right, okay, right. Okay, so blackmail and a murder, fine. And he says, and the traitors will not meet in the tower tonight. And I thought, wait, what? And then I thought, no, wait, no, it's a trick because there's only one traitor, so he's tricking them with his words. They're
Mm.
plural. There won't be plural. I couldn't figure out what was going on. And he tells them they'll celebrate tonight, and the bar is open. And I thought, oh, is this a poison chalice sort of situation? A murder in plain sight we've seen in other versions. And I thought, but wait a minute, how can Purav be left alone as a traitor? This never happens. He needs to recruit. What's happening? Um, so I was confused. We cut to a banquet. I thought, what's going on? What's happening? What does this mean? There's this epic table set outside in the courtyard. The players' photos are at their places and frames. They're all dressed in their finery. The drinks are flowing. And they do start to suspect this can't be as good as it seems. Something is going to happen tonight. Cut to Purav receiving a letter. Dear traitor, today you will not be hiding in the shadows, but murdering in plain sight. Haha. There are two stages to this. One, find the traitor's book in the billiards room with a hidden poison vial, and then pour it in the fountain. I I thought the fountain was going to do this really cool thing, like all turn red, like blood, which would have been so much cooler. And step two, throw in the photo of the traitor you want to murder. So I think this is cool, like
Mhm.
really difficult to pull off, but
Yeah.
very dramatic. Have you seen something like this in any other seasons?
Oh, I mean, there's been a fair few versions of Murder in Plain Sight. It's also possibly my favorite bit of the whole show.
Yeah.
I just love it because then, as I've said on previous episodes, that then it becomes like a murder mystery. You are literally saying who did what.
Yeah.
I kissed you and you gave me a drink and I ate your food and you said that and you shook my hand and or like then it gets really interesting. I think they should do it more. Maybe not every episode, but there should be more of these weird clues. I suppose
Yeah.
they've done it twice here, haven't they? Because they did the Elnas had to do the secret mission to put the
Mm.
axes in the little chest thing. Um, and this was genuinely hard. A lot of the time it's editing, like, oh no, someone's coming, and then you realize they were like, it was just editing. But in this, poor little Purav, my
Yeah.
goodness. I just he was actually this is his finest moment, like how he actually managed to. I genuinely thought there's no way,
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
or that he was going to get caught because they were right there. He did it. They were right.
yeah. I thought the same. This really looked tough, and I was starting to question, well, what if he doesn't do it? How are they going to get around this? Like,
Yeah.
they're going to just have to make him hang around as long as possible. Um, Actually, first of all, we do cut to Purav outside in the courtyard, walking around alone, and I thought, "But then where is everyone?" And like, I thought it was just, I think it was just coincidence that they'd all sort of migrated inside, maybe to get more drinks or something.
Mhm.
Um, and he tells us that he's thinking of either Apurva, Urfi, or Sufi. He he says that in Circle of Shack they're always the ones who raise the most questions, so that's not good to have sort of great leaders of debate like this. And then he throws in Shula's name in the mix, no pun intended. Um, thinking thinking back to the previous mission as well, like you mentioned with Elna's, Purav was pretty useless at that one, so I didn't know how he was going to do here. There's lots of close-up shots of the clock. It's almost midnight. There's people almost catching him in the billiards room, but I actually think it is like it's real this time. Maybe not the clock, but certainly being in the room and people coming in. So suddenly, yeah, Apurva and he's looking through all the drawers. Apurva and Sufi arrive. Then Jasmine's there, and he has to just play it cool. He pretends he's actually playing snooker, or I think it is snooker rather than billiards. Maybe I'm
Mm.
wrong. Um, and he does this smart thing. He pretends he's looking for the chalk, and then he finds the book in the drawer. I don't know how he didn't see it the first time he looked, but um, and he's like they're right there, and he's hiding the poison in his pocket. And I was like really anxious watching this. The anxiety is strong within me in general, so no, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't manifest that. So I don't know what anxiety is. This was rare for me. So now he's got to do the next part. He's got to pour it in the fountain, and then he's got to get the photograph. But another group's sitting around outside. Eventually, he just they kind of are turned away. He just chucks it in. It's pretty loud. There's a big splash. He could have like just like slid it in. Um, then the bell chimes midnight, which I think must be real because they're all saying goodbye to each other. So that's not fake. But he hasn't put the photo in. So yeah, this is where I thought, well, they're going to just have to let him hang around a bit longer, right? Like they can't just have no murder. Um, Sufi and Apurva will not leave. They're clearly drunk. And even Purav, I think, has been drinking a bit. And I think the way he gets around it is, yeah, I thought it was pretty smart. He goes back to the table to pretend he's just grabbing some leftovers. He's quickly eating little things, and he just grabs the photo. He throws it miles across the courtyard into the fountain. I thought, A, that was a risk. What if you had missed? B, it makes another giant splash that no one notices. So I thought they really are very drunk or talking so loudly that you can't hear this. Um, so it seems like he's pulled it off, and the episode ends.
Mm.
Just
Before
be
we move on,
Oh, yes, yes.
I think you have failed to acknowledge the work of the
Oh,
best supporting animal
of
in
course.
season so far,
I knew you would bring this up. Yes.
which nominees are the pigeon. the pigeons that are constantly sweeping around the palace. Um, that's probably about it. However, the award goes to the bee that stung Urfi's backside.
Yeah.
Disappointed face of the pigeons. It's fine. Very much. I have never. I teased you by sending you a message saying somebody ends this episode with a sore backside. And that person is Urfi because a bee stung me. Where? Says Bulldog. On my butt, says the subtitles. She says, I've put ointment on it. I've put, what she said, treatment on it, but now I can't sit down. It really hurts. Okay.
Poor
Um,
Urfi.
well, she literally got stung on the backside by a bee. And I can tell you, I haven't seen that before on any
No.
version of the Traitors, but I'm looking forward to it being um, possibly a format point that you could you could bring in.
Yes. You know, it's so funny now that we're talking about it that the next day when they were all thinking, "Oh, murder in plain sight, who took a drink from who gave it that someone didn't go, oh my God, who stung her with the bee? Like the traitors
Yeah.
brought a bee in.
They trained a bee. They said, "Go and sting
Yeah.
Buffy."
And Urfi's like, it's me, it was this bee sting. Yeah, that you know, and when it happened, I sort of thought that I thought Urfi was pretending or something, but no, no. Yeah, you had warned me about that.
Yeah.
Um, Also, just before I go on to episode 8, I'm gonna just throw something in there that may it's on my mind, and I think maybe Traitors fans will be interested. There is and this is related to the show. There is a new documentary that is on BBC iPlayer. I don't know if it's available in on other channels in other countries, and it's called The Contestant. Someone sent me a link to this and said, "Hey, you know, you're in TV. You'll be interested in this." And it is a documentary about this thing that happened in 1998 in Japan. It was a reality TV show where this guy called Nasubi ended up on a like a sort of prototype Big Brother. This sort of reality show. It was actually a segment within another show. It wasn't a whole show on its own. This guy called Nasubi lives in an apartment alone for a year and 3 months, completely isolated, and his mission is to survive purely on. It was called A Life in Prizes. All he's given is like a little kitchen, a bathroom, and a bunch of magazines. And he has to apply to competitions, and he's got a radio and a phone. He can apply to radio competitions and fill in magazine competitions to win things to like keep him alive and keep him going. And once he earns like something like 1 million yens worth of prizes, the game's over. And he stays in it for a year and 3 months. Like, by the way, the door is not locked and he can leave whenever he wants, but he chooses to stay there and play the game. It's wild. Millions of people in Japan watched it on TV. It became this phenomenon. I had never heard about this before. It obviously completely psychologically affected him. He's in the documentary, like talking about his experience. The producer who created the segment is on talking about it. It is wild. The whole time, Nasubi had no idea whether anyone was watching this, and actually was, you know, really manipulated and tricked. He. I don't want to ruin too much. When it ends, he had no idea that the footage of him was even being broadcast on TV. Like he's mind blown about the fact that he's now this famous figure. It's wild. So it's called The Contestant. It's in the world of reality shows and psychological effects that these shows can have in people, and it's like 27 years ago this happened on TV, and I'm sure probably led to Big Brother in the Netherlands, and then this show and this show and this show, and maybe even the Traitors. Like it's
Mm.
fascinating. So I watched it over the past couple of days, and it's really I really enjoyed it, and it really blew my mind. So
Well, I hadn't heard anything about that, but I had heard about this phenomenon. I think it's in Japan and I think South Korea of people like staying at home too much. It's like a
mm,
whole thing, like a psychological barrier. It's not like agoraphobia. It's just this thing of I have food delivered to me. I converse with people online. They just, it's a whole kind of thing. And so Japan is trying to encourage people to go outside.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And
Mm.
a lot of the documentary does explore loneliness and human connection and why him being isolated really drove him to despair. Like it's really awful and fascinating, and what he says he's learned about being a human being is really, really interesting. So,
I'm going to
uh,
watch that. That sounds
yeah,
great.
yeah.
それはとても面白いです. That is very interesting.
Oh, a bit of Japanese.
Tiny bit. ちょっと日
Well
本語
done.
話します。
So, back to the traitors. Episode 8. Here we go. We suddenly begin with Purav heading somewhere in his cloak and Karan's voiceover telling us he will now be blackmailing. So I thought we kind of were misled a little bit with the whole the traitors will not be meeting. Yes, they won't be meeting in the tower.
It's,
And it's kind of only one traitor right now, but there's still going to be a murder. We see Purav make his decision. There's no like umming and ahhing over possibilities about
mm.
who will I pick. Probably because it would kind of ruin whose photo he might have thrown in the fountain, so he can't mention names that might spoil that.
Do you know that meme of on Drag Race when someone eliminates someone and they go, "So whose lipstick milk?" And it just cuts in with like the name of the drag queen before they finish the question. It's like, "Oh, so you have
Yeah.
to harsh."
Yeah.
No, but
Yeah.
tonight you have to black harsh. It's like his decision was made a long
Yeah.
time ago.
Yeah. He tells it wasn't much of a surprise. He says he's wanted this person for a long time and it's this moment's finally here. So I thought it's harsh, isn't it? It's going to be harsh. Like
Mm.
you so did not want to murder him.
Mm.
And the next shots are of Purav waiting with his cloak and a blurry figure walking towards us. Oh, who could it be? It's Harsh. Um, so here we go. The hood comes off, and Harsh just he's laughing, and he kind of can't believe it, although he did suspect Purav a bit anyway. And it's so funny because Harsh goes, "This 5 foot man is doing all this in this show." So the Purav is a short king. I stand a short king. Purav, you're still very handsome. Um, and Purav explains exactly here's what the blackmail is. I think Harsh gets it. And he just instantly is like, yeah, obviously I'm going to be a traitor. Fine. So none of this Nikita. I mean, she wasn't her alternative wasn't to be murdered, but um, so Purav then tells him, hey, by the way, there was this murder in plain sight tonight. Of course, I'm sure tells Harsh who he chose. They don't show us that. Keep the mystery going a little bit longer. Cloaks on, off they go. And Harsh faces a little bit of a dilemma, I think, because yesterday he was really cornering Purav at the Circle of Shak, and even before that. So now he's gonna have to change tact a little bit. He can't fully now be like, oh, by the way, guys, I don't think it's Purav anymore. Like that'll be too obvious. So he's gonna have to be careful about how he plays things.
Yeah, when there's a blackmail, it's interesting, isn't it? You have to gauge as a viewer how enthusiastic they actually are.
Yeah,
Like, there's what they say to the traitor, there's what they say in the confessionals, and then there's what's the truth.
yeah.
And actually, I thought Harsh would be more up for it. I thought he'd be more like, "Oh, pulled out great, cool. Let's see what we can do. Let's have some fun." He seems really hesitant, and there is this element of, "Oh, well, I guess I don't have a choice."
Yeah, yeah, I
And we,
think
we have
so.
we actually, aside from him looking, fairly handsome, we haven't had that much from Harsh really. So this is his chance to really step into the
Hmm.
game.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, I even had to sort of go and remind myself what does Harsh do? Like, what's his thing outside the show? He's a stand-up comedian and
Mm.
he does YouTube content. But yeah, I guess that maybe some of the other players I know exactly. Like, I know Nikita's the poker player. I know some of them are actors. I know that Sophie's the content social media part. So yeah, there's somewhere else for some reason we'll get to. I wanted to go and check what somebody did, but Harsh was one of them. So at breakfast, Harsh and Urfi are first, and they chat about was there a murder last night? What do we think happened? Purav, Apurva, and Anshula are next. So I thought here, that means Sufi's gone. Because 3 of the 4 possible victims that Purav mentioned are here now. So I thought, there's no surprise, right? Sufi's out. Okay. I was wrong, of course. Well, I was right and wrong. There's already a bit of aggro because Urfi is very sus of Anshula and is being very vocal about it. Janat and Nikita arrive next. It's funny because we see Nikita saying there was probably a blackmail last night, and now that means they'll have no chance of finding the new traitor. And I thought, well, if you realize that, then why did you try so hard to eliminate someone? I thought if you're admitting it's really hard to find a recruited person last minute in the game, why bother trying to get a traitor out? I mean, it's just that sort of eternal question about the traitors, but
Hmm.
to see a player admit this in their confessional is funny. Sudanshi arrives next, followed by Sufi. So then I thought, but wait, what's going on? Jasmine's the only person left to return. I thought maybe Jasmine's murdered and Purav just grabbed any photo he could and he didn't even know what he was throwing in. Of course, she then walks in and I'm confused for a moment before I realize, oh, this is gonna be that they're all here and then they're gonna do like a funeral scenario that we've seen in
Yeah.
other seasons or a slow release poison thing.
Yeah.
Even Purav and Harsh are confused.
Yeah.
Because they know that someone should be dead. And then I thought, wait a minute. Is it because I had this other theory that Purav threw the photo in the fountain after the midnight chime,
Yeah.
so it didn't count or
Yeah,
something?
they tricked me. The editors actually got me this time. And I was like, oh no, because he did do it really, really late.
Yeah,
But then, yeah, that was actually really stupid because there's no way the producers would go, oh, you did it a couple of minutes late.
yeah,
Therefore, because then they would need too much of the mechanics of the game. They'd need to come in and go, oh, well, the producers told me that,
yeah,
or Karan would have to come in and say they tried to murder in plain sight, but they failed. And then he'd have to, yeah, yeah, anyway,
yeah,
wrong. But they did trick me.
yeah, me too. Karan arrives and says, "You're all here, but don't get too excited." And explains that last night during the party, the traitor dished out a slow poison. So I thought, okay, right, here we go. Funnily enough, Apurva assumes it will be either her or Sufi or Purav to go because those three were together last night and they were really drunk. And I think she's implying it would have been really easy to sort of trick them or take advantage of them. And she's kind of right. Karan mentions meeting them later for the mission, and it will be one player's final journey. He leaves, and they're all very anxious. Janat's telling Apurva, "What are you talking about? You've got a shield." I completely forgot about the shields, actually. So presumably Purav, I thought Apurva had one after the fake argument. So I thought, well, he's probably not chosen her. Janat is the only person with an actual shield, but Purav doesn't know that, but I don't think he was going to go for her. So, um, they head off from breakfast. There's discussions around the palace. They all start talking about, like you said, they're speculating about drinks, who gave what to who. Again, they've clearly watched other seasons and they know how it tends to work. So that's where their minds are going. Was it did someone hand something? Did someone shake somebody's hand and all that? Purav pretends to be freaking out because he's like, I think other people assume he might have been poisoned, and and Harsh does quite a good job of leading the charge on that. And Purav's like, no, no, man, who gave me a drink? A little later, we have Apurva talking to Purav, suddenly suspecting Harsh is a traitor because she can't figure out why Urfi is still in the game. And I thought, oh, wait a minute. If imagine Harsh goes before Purav now. Like, this is not going where I thought this was going to go. We even cut to Sufi saying he thinks the traitors are Harsh and Shula. It just seems like I just don't know where this has come from. I thought everyone just universally agreed there's no way Harsh is a traitor, and Harsh even then kind of puts his foot in it a little bit. I think by claiming he's like, no, I'm a proven innocent, which really raises people's tackles a bit, and they're like, where did that phrase come from? Why do you think you're a proven innocent? But, and I don't think he should have said that, but I did think that was like the consensus. Um, so Urfi defends Harsh to Janat, but Janat thinks, well, it's just because you've got the hots for him. Fair. And it's it's time for the mission. Like we're kind of there quite quickly. We're out in the wild, surrounded by the ruins of an old village. This is not a set. Like this is some real place. I
Mm.
thought I'm pretty impressed that they got permission to film here.
Yeah.
They're all wearing white from head to toe.
Yeah.
I seems like that can't be a coincidence. I'm sure
Yeah.
they were
So
told to
yeah,
do
no,
that.
so that's the thing. That's the traditional color of funerals and of death
Ah, okay.
in Hinduism and I think Buddhism in certainly in kind of like the Asian subcontinent, you would never wear black.
Oh
It's like
wow.
yeah, it's more that's more associated with like witchcraft and all of this. So yeah, the
Amazing.
white and actually again, I like you, I didn't watch the next time trailer. I skipped through it because I just couldn't quite grab my computer fast enough. I skipped and I was like, oh no, I've seen them all wearing white and immediately thought they're going to do the funeral, aren't
Okay.
they?
Okay.
Um yeah, so I again I found that so beautiful. It's like okay, so in all the kind of Western European version, in the American version, all of that, they're like, oh, we're going to a funeral, everyone wear black, and they're like, oh, we're going to a funeral, everyone wear white. It's like
Yeah.
I love like all these little cultural nuances.
Yeah. It struck me what they were wearing, but I didn't realize the significance of it. Okay. This is great. This makes sense now. Karan then tells them a story about the village suddenly being deserted by all the inhabitants years ago, and today one of them will disappear too. They have to follow these cloaked figures and await further instructions. The game sort of plays out in like 3 rounds, I guess. The first of all, we see some pots with 6 players' names painted on: Anshula, Sufi, Apurva, Urfi, Janat, Purav, and Harsh. They each have to drop their pots in a well, and smoke will come out. Red smoke means you're still unsafe, you may be murdered. Green means you're fine now, you're not going to be murdered. So here we go. Anshula and Janat go first. There's a green, Urfi's is red, as is Apurva's, and she's a bit worried that maybe her shield bluff is going to get revealed. And I think we even see Urfi like, wait a minute, I thought she had a shield. Purav's is green. Kind of obvious to us. Although they could have given him red and tricked them a little bit and kept him in for longer. And Harsh's is red, which so they're doing it with Harsh. Round two, on they go, and suddenly this mass of women in red veils appears. They're sort of moaning and crying. It's giving me Handmaid's Tale meets the soothsayers from the Doctor Who Pompeii episode. This is what's coming to mind.
Okay, little cultural interjection here. Do you know, have you heard, Matthew, about the kind of professional mourners?
No.
So in certain cultures, I was aware of this, but I did look it up to try and get my facts right. It's less in fashion now, but it has been in the past. Particularly in Indian culture, wealthy people or people from like the higher castes in the caste system
Hmm.
would not be expected to show any emotion at
Ah,
the at funerals.
okay.
And so they would hire professional women um, of a lower caste to do a lot of the wailing. And so
Hmm.
it's this kind they're professional mourners. They turn up wearing, I checked the colors, it's not necessarily this red, but they do wear the veils all over their face.
Hmm.
And it's the image of, yes, the veiled woman. The idea being that they are expressing the emotions so that the actual bereaved don't have to.
Ah, okay.
It's obviously, quite controversial because of the caste system and
Yeah.
stuff. Um, and so they're playing on that. And I don't know. I thought it was so fascinating that what they've done is they said, right, what are our rituals around death and how can we use them in this game mechanic? So
Hmm.
you have to walk through them and, all of that. Because in UK versions, obviously, it was the horse-drawn carriage, it was the coffins, it was, different. Rose, give the
Hmm.
flowers. It's very different. Like,
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So although
Um,
I didn't know the sort of significance of it,
mm,
but I appreciate the sort of atmosphere that it was
yeah.
creating. I
And
liked
I've
it.
I've got a name. Apparently in Rajasthan, they're called
Okay.
Rudalis. That's
Okay.
the name of these women. So yeah,
Hmm.
fascinating stuff.
Yeah. So what they have to do is, well, that their fates are that the players whose fates are uncertain have to walk through these women, and if they part and the player makes it to the other side, they're safe. Um, Something else, well, we don't really know. Something's going to happen if they're not safe. It's really creepy. It's quite unsettling.
Mm,
Jasmine goes first. She's safe. Urfi walks through the crowd, and one of the women reach out and grabs her by the shoulder, and she's led away somewhere. Sudanshu is safe, Sufi is unsafe, Nikita is safe, and then Harsh and Apurva walk through together. Harsh makes it through, but Apurva is taken off. Um, and again, some players are confused because they thought Apurva had a shield. She still could. She's not dead yet, but something feels off. Um, Round three, we're kind of at the end. The three unsafe players, that's Urfi, Apurva, and Sufi, are standing on these tall platforms. It didn't immediately occur to me what was probably going to happen. Took me a few minutes to guess. And Karan asks the safe players to place bets, essentially, on who they think is going to be poisoned by throwing pouches into fires. Sounds familiar. For correct votes or bets, they'll win 100,000 rupees into the prize pot. Jinnah picks Sufi, and while they're deliberating, we get this little moment going on in the background of Jinnah telling Jasmine the truth that actually she was the one who had the shield and not Apurva. Purav goes next and chooses Apurva. I'm kind of guessing that she's not going now, and that he's doing this to give the impression he didn't. He was, he's an innocent. He didn't know. He just he didn't. He's blindly just guessing. Like, so he's sacrificing money in the pot for the sake of looking like he was completely in the dark. Jasmine and Shula and Nikita all pick Sufi, as does Harsh. So maybe he and Prav had an agreement. Like, maybe they didn't have time to talk about this because they didn't know how it was. Well, yeah, they probably didn't know because at breakfast they were surprised. So I don't know if they had time to agree. Like, one of us do the real one of us do a fake one,
Mm,
or if Harsh just saw what Purav did and was like, well, I'll put some money in the pot. I
yeah.
don't know. So, but when Harsh throws it into the fire in front of Sufi, I sort of thought, oh, he's probably going unless they're both faking it, and actually Urfi's going to be the one. Sudanshu then is the last one to go, and he picks Apurva. So actually, no one betted on Urfi. Interesting. The betting is done. Karan tells them the journey's over, and this is where I thought, oh, one of these platforms is maybe a trapdoor, or all of them could be a trapdoor. And then we get this really cool rewind back to last
Hmm.
night, which I love very much. Did you watch Genius Game, by the way?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like they try and do that all the time in Genius Game, successfully or not.
Yeah.
We just like rewind back. Here's what you didn't see, and we cross cut between Purav last night and the three unsafe players on the platforms. We're building up back and forth. It's really exciting, and then we cut to this three-way split screen. Sufi just fucking disappears with a scream through the trapdoor, which, unless it was an incredibly long drop, I think they manipulate the sound a little bit to make it
Yeah.
sound like it's just echoing on to this like endless drop. But
My theory is that actually they opened the gates to hell and and he's gone.
he really was the villain of the season.
He really was. And I was going to learn another Hindi phrase, but I just haven't had time or the motivation. So instead, I'm just going to do it right here.
क्या सूफी अपना बैग जाल में ले गया?
Did you hear that?
Yes.
Okay, and that means
Did Sufi take his bag into the trapdoor?
Oh, I would love it if Karan like threw it in after him.
oh, Sufi, you forgot your bag.
Yeah, Sophie like, thanks, girl. Uh, so everyone is just like horrified, and Apurva even just sits down and cries. Karan really sticks the knife in, as if it wasn't obvious. He's like, Sufi will not be returning to the game. I know, by the way, you won 500,000 rupees. So the total prize pot now is 5,305,000 rupees.
Hmm.
Karan congratulates. He says, congratulations to you all and farewell to Sufi. So that he's out. As the last we see of him. Back to the palace. Harsh is very nervous, and Apurva is talking to Parav again about being sure that it's Harsh, and Purav is freaking out, and what does he do? Does he defend Harsh? Does he turn it? Like what's how does he play this? Meanwhile, Urfi and Nikita are talking about Anshula, And now Nikita has totally changed her mind about Anshula, while Orphe is planning to target her. So we head into Circle of Shack, and this it felt like really early in the episode. Like there was so
Mm,
little between the mission and this.
yeah.
But then I guess that mission took up quite a bit of time, maybe longer than usual because it was so
But
important.
they had the blackmail as well, didn't they, initially?
Yeah, yeah, we
So,
had the recruitment
yeah.
at the start, so it just feels like it's. But yeah, it was just sort of structured a little bit different or balanced a little bit differently this episode.
Mm.
And we come. There are only 9 people. It's really getting smaller. Apurva begins because Sufi's not here anymore. R.I.P. And she focuses on Anshula, which is I thought she would start with Harsh, but she doesn't. She'll come to him later. Our main reason is the way Anshula was so dedicated to saving Elnaz yesterday. She was counting up votes, she was campaigning against Urfi, and Apurva says, you didn't even do this for your own aunt. You didn't do it when Mahit was going to go. And Anshula's like, well, you know, first of all, we've all gotten things wrong. You've gotten things wrong. And she says, I didn't campaign for Mahit because there were so many people at that time. It wasn't possible. It's easier when there only are like 10, 11 people. It wasn't like it is now. And she even drops in the fact, she's like, well, yesterday I thought it was Purav. Now I don't. So I was wrong yesterday. Like we were all in the dark here. Jannat attacks Anshula as well, focusing on how defensive she was of Elna's right up until the end. Was that a traitor defending another traitor? And suddenly, Nikita tells them she has a confession to make. And she tells them that the day there was no murder, it's because she received an invitation to be a traitor, but she turned it down. And I thought, why are you telling them this now? But
Mm.
she does have a reason. It's
Yeah.
because she's using it to point out some logic. She talks them through the maths of it and deduces that if she was being potentially recruited at that time, it must have been because there were only 2 traitors left, and so on and so on. And deduces that yesterday there must have been a blackmail after we got Elnaz out. And she says she observed everyone today, and she thinks that the person whose behavior has changed the most is, and I thought she was going to say harsh, but no, no, she goes Urfi. Um, so she's got like the right line of logic all the way up until the end when she's observed things. Just she's just interpreting things wrongly. And our main piece of evidence is that Urfi's had this complete 180 shift on Anshula. She also says, well, if I was a traitor, it would have been really wise to recruit Urfi because she's very influential. And then they argue a bit about that too. Urfi goes nuts. She's insisting she's an innocent from day one, no less,
Mhm.
and reiterates that she thinks Anshula's the traitor. Jasmine then questions Apurva about her shield bluff, which I thought was a. This is where I said earlier I was going to come back to Jasmine. I thought this was a really weird line of questioning. I don't think she's got it right.
Mm.
It seems kind of obvious to me why someone would pretend to have a shield. If anything, I think that makes you look like an innocent who's desperate to not be murdered.
Yeah.
But Jasmine is just reading it wrongly. She's like, you're really sneaky. It's because you're a traitor. And Apurva's like, no, no, no. I'm an innocent. Here's my strategy. I'm desperate
Yeah.
to stay in the. And Jasmine goes, well, why has no one else thought of that? I thought, just because you didn't think of it, I just
Yeah.
thought Jasmine is not. She's not getting it.
No,
Uh,
and I thought this was I thought Apurva came across so well here. Like I was gonna say like her acting, but it's kind of not acting, is it? It's her selling her logic to the
yeah,
others, conveying with absolute like authenticity what she was trying to do.
yeah,
This is her moment when she gets it across, and it does so, so well.
yeah,
That's why I think she's still in the game because she's got the courage of her convictions and she's very articulate and speaks with real conviction.
yeah. And she even says to like, well, just because you're not strategizing, she says that makes me smart, not a traitor. So yeah,
Mm.
absolutely.
She might have to be careful though, because when you get that much conviction behind you, and if you just see people around the circle of Shaka, just if they are all going, yeah, oh yeah, 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 it's like you're looking a little bit too innocent.
Mm,
If I were a traitor, I might wipe you out before we get to the final.
perhaps. Uh, J Jasmine then she kind of just bangs on about how Apurva's really clever and therefore that would make her a great traitor. And I thought, okay, okay, if we see this a lot, if her point is, oh, the producers or Karan in inverted commas, uh, maybe they would have likely picked a smart player like you because that would they want good traitors, they want good
Mhm.
TV. I don't think that's what Jasmine is getting at. I just
No.
think she's simplifying things too much.
No, and can I just say from the Elnaz Appreciation Society, because I didn't get the chance to say before she went, she's been one of my favorite players the whole season, and actually one of the standout players from any franchise I've seen. I thought Elnaz was brilliant, brilliant TV. I mean, she
Yeah,
got caught, but I don't know. She was like charismatic, she was articulate, she had
yeah.
her strategy, she was ambitious, she really got stuck into the game. So. Uh, think about recruitment if but again I don't think there was a clear line of thought here. Elnaz and Apurva as traitors from
hmm
the start, that's nah, it's kind of
Yeah,
two similar personalities there.
yeah, that's true. So I think Jasmine is just not quite going there.
Nope.
She also implies, and I sort of alluded to this earlier, that it's only the traitors who need to deceive and manipulate. Why would an innocent need to play like that? And I thought, Jasmine, you have got this so wrong. Apurva now turns to harsh, so I sort of thought she would get here, and basically spells out her theory. Urfi's influential, and she's here because a traitor is close to her and is keeping her here, and that person is Harsh. And Harsh defends himself. Here, he's saying that. Actually, I think I said he said this earlier, but actually it's now. He says, "I'm not influenced by her at all. She could never influence me." And Apurva she kind of goes off in one. She's convinced. She's just like she just loses it. Like not in a like angry way, just in a sort of like, oh, to hell with it. She's like, I'm not gonna win. I'm not gonna win this game, even though I really want her to win. She's like, look, I'm probably gonna be going soon. I might as well just lay everything out on the table, and I'm just gonna tell you exactly what I think. I'm not even gonna pretend anymore. She really, I just love watching her. And at this point, Karan returns and he says, "Has anyone got anything else?" And they're all like, "Nah, let's just vote." So here we go. Harsh begins and votes for Anshula. Nikita goes for Urfi because she thinks she's a recruit. Apurva votes for Anshula. Interesting that she didn't pick Harsh. Sudanshu votes for Harsh. And it's just sort of kind of going back and forth. Purav goes for Anshula, so he's not turning on Harsh yet. Anshula votes for Harsh. Jasmine then goes for Apurva, ironically while admitting she's dumb. And Urfi votes for Anshula. Janat votes for Anshula. Poor Anshula. Um, she she she's out. She gives her speech and says, "If someone had asked me at the beginning of the year if I wanted to do anything in TV, I would have said it wasn't on my bucket list." And this is where I went to check. I was like, "Oh, but what is she known for? If she's obviously not on TV then." So I reminded myself. She's kind of part of a famous family. Our father's a famous film producer. I think she's got a famous sister who acts, but she is more of a businesswoman. She works in like marketing and merchandising. I think she's sort of like film industry adjacent. And she says, "I was deceived a lot. I had fun." Karan asks the question, and she says, "I we were deceived a lot, but I have not deceived any of you at all. I am, always was, and always will be, as they like to say, an innocent." Red light comes on. I notice it now. They're all really disappointed. Jasmine immediately speaks up to tell them, uh, "You have to find the traitors by personality traits." And I'm like, no, Jasmine, no, no, no. Still not getting it.
Mhm.
Karan reminds them that this is the fifth time they've banished an innocent. He doesn't use the word banish, I'm using that. And tells the traitors that as the numbers diminish, it will be harder to hide in plain sight. They all get up to leave, and Harsh is doing his best acting job. I think he leaves the room saying to, I think, Sudanshu, he's like, "Oh, just kill me, just kill me. I can't take this. Just get rid of me tonight, whoever you are." So I thought he was doing a pretty decent job there of playing an innocent. Post Circle. We have Urfi and Nikita arguing about the way Nikita turned on Urfi at the circle. But like Nikita's kind of laughing about it. It's not too serious. Janat says something wise to Jasmine, which I'm sure Jasmine will not get. And it made me really appreciate Janat here. I thought, oh, actually, maybe I've underestimated her. She says maybe it's for the best. Actually, we eliminated an innocent tonight because it means there won't be a blackmail tonight. Instead, maybe it's better that we get a traitor tomorrow, and then
Mhm.
there can't be a blackmail after that. So actually, she's like, maybe it's good. We just get Harsh tomorrow night, and then there's only one traitor left to find. So I
Yeah.
thought Janat's like, yeah, she's kind of onto something here.
Yeah, I've never seen that level of like tactics played really in terms, again, they've really understood the rules, which is so unusual for this game.
Yeah,
Say, right, so we did want to get one here, but we don't want to get one here in order to go into the final the best prepared we can. I've never seen them talk about that on screen before.
yeah,
I do think that's part of the choice of the editors to show us that.
yeah, yeah,
And I love it. I thought I was a little bit mind blown. It was like, okay, wow.
yeah.
Because like also these people are very intelligent. Like they've kind of I guess they have enough time to think about it, but yeah, really smart.
Yeah, it made me think of what you mentioned a couple of episodes back that the editor normally they wouldn't, I think, include
Mm,
in the cut of the show someone saying, "Hey, maybe it doesn't matter. We didn't get in it." Where they're usually supposed to convince us, "Oh, we have to find traitors. We have to find traitors," and the
mm,
host is always pushing them for that. And here we've got a player saying, I don't really care that we got an innocent. Maybe actually that's a good thing." So yeah, interesting they've included it.
yeah.
But like I said, Jasmine, I just will be like, huh? Jasmine does also go on to criticize the way Harsh dismissed Urfi at the circle when he says that he would never be influenced by her. And Jasmine thinks there was like a bit of subtext to this. Maybe actually it was a little bit disrespectful. And eventually Urfi starts to come round to that. And she's like, oh, maybe Harsh doesn't really care about me as much as I thought. And as she's kind of coming to that conclusion, we hear the chimes of midnight. It's time for Secret Tower. And of course, it's Harsh's first time and possibly his last. So he's like, "Oh, this is where you've been doing all your murders, and now I'm the one taking all the heat for it." And Parav says this thing. He goes, um, "What should I say? You were a suspect even from the start." And I thought, "No, he wasn't. What? Where
Mm,
is it? What? I don't
well,
really know what he's talking about."
we didn't see that.
Yeah, yeah,
That was
maybe.
if he wasn't, that's a very weird thing to say. He may
Hmm,
well have been because there were so many names thrown around at the start.
I guess.
But yeah, we didn't see that.
Hmm. It seemed to me like here it became more obvious that Harsh is kind of annoyed with Purav for recruiting him.
Mm,
Well, not just to me. I mean, he literally says it at this time in the game. He's like, "This is." I mean, maybe it doesn't matter what time in the game it is, but he's like, "This is the time when there are fewer players, so people are starting to look in the less obvious places." And man, I wish you hadn't done it now. He just feels like he's screwed. Although I don't know, I still think this is actually maybe a great time to be recruited.
Well,
Um,
look, would you rather be at this point a traitor or an innocent? I mean, traitor,
yeah,
obviously,
yeah.
100%.
Um, I think he just I think he's not he's annoyed at the wrong thing. It shouldn't be annoyed at being recruited.
Mm,
He's annoyed at people saying his name at the circle really seriously for the first time, and the
yeah.
fact that he's got some votes. But I think that kind of could have happened anyway without the
Yeah.
recruitment.
Yes, and the whole point of this game is that you have to manage that and you have to deflect and you have
Yeah,
to defend yourself and do whatever you need to do to not get voted at. Because let's
yeah.
remind ourselves, traitors can only get banished or whatever they want to call it, shacked. You can only get chucked out at the round table. So that's your only job is to
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, like all the reasons that people were given at the circle were because of his closeness with Urfi, and that was suspicious. That's nothing to do with Purav recruiting him. So
Mm,
no one said, "Oh, you changed this morning
no.
and you were much quieter." Like that's not why they were picking on him. So Uh, anyway, Harsh and Purav discuss Apurva and Jana. These are the two people that will probably most likely vote for Harsh again tomorrow. And then they go, oh wait, also Sudhanshu voted for you. Maybe he's going to do it again tomorrow. Purav is insistent that their plan needs to be hang on to Urfi, let's get her eliminated tomorrow night with votes at the circle.
Hmm.
But Harsh is worried about murder and Apurva. He's like, well, it'll be so obvious. Be so obvious that I was responsible for that. Can we please keep her in the game? And Purav's fighting back, and he's like, no, no, no. And it's not going to look too obvious. The way that the episode ended, I thought, like we cut right to secretly writing a name, sealing the paper. I thought they made it look like it was supposed to be obvious they've landed on a Purva, but I I thought surely that's too obvious. So we end on this note where I think they're trying to mislead us, and I'm not sure what's going on. Matthew, what what is your prediction for the murder? Who do you think Harsh and Purav have chosen this time?
So did they not do a final three on this?
Not really. We just hear that they talk about Apurva, Jana, and Sudhanshu. Those are the three names they mention
Okay.
while they're chatting. They don't do like a sort of flash to those three people's pictures at the
Hmm.
end. So I'm just assuming it's between those three.
Right. Yeah, that's a bit odd. I don't know why they did that. Like you say, if they're pointing towards one person, that's almost certainly not the person who's going.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, we need to talk about Sudanshu at some point.
Yeah.
I'm afraid, there's again on the traitors, there's always the usually quite a big name. He seems like a very, successful actor and they all respect him and
Mm.
everything. Who has contributed basically nothing to the entire game so far.
Yeah.
I don't understand. When he's in confessional, he doesn't give good confessional, does he really? It's just not. Maybe he's just like not feeling it, like or not properly leaning into the game or something.
Yeah.
He has had what the Americans call a purple edit, where he's just, just been massively underused.
Yeah. I
So
think
and annoyingly, these people usually end up making it right through to the end.
yeah. I think he's just so in the dark. I mean, they're all in the dark, but I think he
Mm.
just is kind of admittedly. He says it quite often when he turns over his vote at the circle. He's like, I
Yeah.
actually don't know what I'm doing. He's just like, I'm just picking a name, but I don't really think it's this person, but I don't know who to vote for. So I think he just generally has no hunches about people
Yeah.
and is so thrown by what all the different groups are saying to him that he never really lands on anything. So there's
Yeah.
not really much to show us of him because he's never like really targeting someone and he's never got like a theory that he's going with. So there's not much to show us in confessionals of
Yeah.
him other than I'm just being like, yeah, oh man, I don't know who it is. I think that's all he ever
Yeah.
says.
Yeah, I suppose you do need people like that in the game, but it's not much fun to watch,
Yeah,
and they could certainly get rid of him.
yeah.
I'm actually worried if I was a traitor, I might worry that he's just coming across as super innocent. Has there ever been any
Um,
shuck on him at all? I don't think so.
Occasionally people mention him during the day, but I don't think he's had any vote. He's maybe had one or two votes
Mm,
earlier on, but nah, he's
that
never a big name.
so the thing with the Traitors Tower is that you always, you need your reasons for getting rid of someone, and there are a million reasons, but the kind of top two are they're too innocent and they're never going to get banished, or they're causing, all kinds of stuff. They're stirring stuff up, they're coming after so and so, they're too close to so and so. Like you pick on someone because of their behavior in the game, and it's
Hmm.
it's all a bit much. Um, yeah, there is a case for just getting rid of the quiet, pretty, innocent looking
Hmm.
player.
Yeah.
So hey, I'll go rogue. I'll say Sudanshu.
Okay. I think we were tricked a little bit. I think they left us thinking it was a Purva because it looked like Harsh was really. trying to defend her, and Purav was just like, no, 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 don't worry, it's fine, it's fine. Cut to Harsh being like, okay. I think Janat will be murdered. I think she's the other person that was coming for Harsh.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm going to go Janat.
Okay.
Any uh, further ahead? Circle of Shack, next elimination. I'm going to throw out Urfi. I actually think Purav will work his magic and they'll manage to get enough. I mean, she's got heat on her anyway.
Yeah.
I think maybe it's time everyone goes, hey, do you know what? We're always wondering why she's still here.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just the obvious that she's a traitor.
Yes, and who did Elnaz vote for? Was that Orphe? I can't remember now.
Yes, I think it was. Yes. Yeah, yeah,
Okay, I
yeah.
was just wondering if it's going to be one of what do they call it? Americans call it Hail Mary, is it?
Yeah, yeah, she
When
threw
you
Hail
just
Mary.
throw something out before you go and say,
Yeah.
well, um, there's one other thing I wanted to say as well about right who is being suspected. Did you know when they were on the not the podiums, but the big boxes, the trapdoors to hell,
Mm.
when they were on them, was that not giving an awful lot of information that basically these three players are all innocent and in contention for murder? Think about it.
Uh,
Because at no point, I mean, maybe the producer said, but at no point was it implied, oh, out of these three, there could be a traitor there. Do you see what I mean?
I,
Because those were the ones that Purav was thinking about chucking into the fountain. Those were the last three. And so the three on the boxes, I know they don't know that, but actually, again, it's giving a lot of information. Oh, these are the final three that the traitor or traitors could pick from, and they are all
um,
innocent.
well, I don't, I still, I wouldn't bet on that if I was an innocent. If I
Mm,
really had no clue what was going on and I was second guessing everything, I wouldn't, I wouldn't bank on that.
no.
I would still think there is a possibility one of them is a traitor and they are pretending to be nervous right now and actually
Yeah.
they know they're fine and they're just doing a great act.
It's
I know
true.
what you mean.
Yeah, I'm basing that on information that I have as a viewer, which is that
Yeah,
those were the final three. It's like the whole who comes into breakfast in what order, oh no, the last three, innocent, whatever.
yeah.
Um,
I might even wonder as an innocent, maybe the traitors were asked, who do you want to be the three people left
yes.
on the podiums? And
Yeah.
you're allowed to put yourself up for that.
Yeah, and it's true that could have been a conversation. It wasn't.
Hmm.
And so as a viewer, you're a little like, those are clearly just three innocents.
Hmm.
Yeah, you're quite right. I don't know, I just had a moment there where I was like, I don't know. Again, I've got more information than them. I was just thinking, I think all these three are three innocents and one of them can be murdered. But
Hmm.
yeah, like you say, they didn't have that information. So Circle of Shag. Yeah, I'm afraid I'm with you. I think Urfi's days are numbered.
Yeah. Of course, I mean, my second choice or my second guess would be Harsh, and he does just go, and Purav's left to fight it out for himself.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go Urfi. I said we had a question from a listener. It's not so much a question actually, as a thought, an opinion. This is from Shan. Left this comment on Spotify. Yes, you can leave comments on Spotify. Shan says, "I'd like them to stop doing fake eliminations like with Nikita, because it's more likely for them to not win. I don't know if that's statistically true or not. It's more likely for them to not win because there's always this option. They've come back into the game, and we're not going to tell you if they're a traitor. Like it raises too much suspicion. Same with people on death row or on trial, because of the doubt of one of them being a traitor. They'll get banished one way or another. So Shan is basically saying it's. I think Shan is saying it creates a bit of a disadvantage for those players. It feels unfair to do the fake elimination. They're not really treated like all the other innocents going forward.
Mm.
And we kind of said this maybe on episode one, I think, that maybe they need to stop doing this now, this fake elimination in episode one. Do you feel like it unfairly disadvantages that player who gets kicked out and then they come back?
Yeah. So on the last series of the UK, there was a returning player, and yeah, and he had this kind of doubt on him the whole time simply because he'd come back into the game, and I don't think that's fair, really. Um, I understand that if you get out early, for one of these reasons, and you come back, then you've missed a few banishments, you've missed a few murders, okay, but you're always going to have this lingering doubt. Although, didn't one of the listeners say that someone had done that and gone through and won the whole thing?
Yes, yeah, a couple of episodes back, someone said there is a season somewhere in the world.
Mhm.
Yeah, someone was in this position and managed to actually win, but
Well, if that's the case, then actually maybe it all balances out. But if every time they have too much doubt on them and they never move forward, then that's ruining the game.
yeah. And if, there are like about 30 different franchises of this now, if it's only happened once that someone
Yeah.
succeeds, that makes me think generally as a yeah, I think going forward, I'm hoping, certainly in the UK and US, maybe the producers go, you know what, this actually is creating a bit of an unfair advantage when we do it like this.
Mm.
Let's do something else to make it interesting. Let's not pick out like one player. There's so many other things you could do to spice up the show.
Yeah.
So thanks to Shan for that, and everybody else you can send questions and opinions in all sorts of ways. I'll tell you how to do that in just a few moments. In the meantime, I'm just realizing now, Matthew, I didn't even ask you at the start to sort of introduce your. I mean, I'm sure everybody listening has listened before, but I didn't ask you to tell us a bit about you and who you are. So you could maybe do all of that now. Tell us what you do and where we can find you online.
That's fine. I think it would be really odd if you were tuning into this particular episode. You're like, I only want to listen to these two Matthews talking about episodes
You never
what,
know.
seven
You
and
never know.
eight. You never know. I am a songwriter and producer. I am a life coach, soon to be qualified. Although I've been doing it for years, totally unqualified. Um, whether my friends want it or not. And yeah, you can find me online at MaJiKer, MaJiKer underscore on Instagram, and MaJiKer.com is my website, which I'm soon going to redo to reflect my hopefully newly qualified life coach diploma.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and as you will have gathered, I'm a bit of a super fan of certain international franchises of this very show.
Yeah. And I'm also going to just spell out MaJiKer. Although that's it, the link is in the episode description. Scroll down, you'll see it there. But at least somebody sent a comment saying, "Oh, can you ask MaJiKer this?" But they spelled it not quite right. So it's MaJiKer. That's right, isn't it?
That's it.
So, to make sure you are up to date with the podcast and the Traitors and any other shows we're covering, and maybe some Traitors India updates, you can follow on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at the Trader Podcast. Those are where you can leave comments and thoughts and questions for the pod or for other listeners. You can email me as well at thetraderpodcast@gmail.com. You could leave a voice message. It's not happened this season, but someone may be desperate to be heard on the pod. You can do that at memo.fm/ the Trader Podcast. It's incredibly simple to use. It's like leaving a voice note on WhatsApp. Some people might find that easier than writing out a whole email. Just get on the phone and just talk us through your thoughts. It's also really helpful if you can subscribe and follow and leave star ratings or nice reviews on whatever platform you're using. It can help other people discover the pod. And finally, if you have been listening along all these episodes and enjoying, and you want to help keep the podcast going, it does have various costs involved for me to pay for subscriptions and software and hardware. So if you wanted to, you could visit ko-fi.com/Matthew Keeley, coffee.com/Matthew Keeley, and you can put in a one-off donation of whatever amount you would like to help keep the podcast up and running. Matthew, thank you for joining me again. Listeners, thanks for tuning in. Matthew and I will be back in just a couple of days to cover episode 9 by itself. And then the finale episode 10, will be released by Amazon next Thursday. And the podcast finale will be very soon after that. A special one, a biggie. Until next time, make sure you keep us on your radar. And remember, in the words of Quran, trust is rare, betrayal is everywhere.